Hi, I'm your host, Megan Blissick, Director of Partnerships at Orita AI. Today on the Orita Podcast, I'm joined by Will Evans of FlowCandy and Nikki Tooman of Sticky Digital, two retention operators who've helped brands move from email chaos to CRM clarity. Will is a former e-commerce store owner turned email marketing expert who has spent years in the trenches helping brands optimize their Klaviyo email and SMS strategies. Nikki leads a multi-million-dollar all-women retention agency out of San Diego, specializing in turning one-time purchasers into loyal fans through email, SMS, and subscriptions. We dig into why most brands are underusing their Klaviyo data, how to segment without blowing up your list, and the hidden costs of switching tools too fast. Plus, the difference between influencer-led and celeb-backed retention plays, and how to find your unfair advantage. If you're staring down BFCM with a bloated list, a fragmented tech stack, or a leaky LTV, this one's packed with hard-earned tactical advice. Let's get into it. Okay, and we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Blissick, Director of Partnerships at Orita. In this episode of the Orita Podcast, I am sitting down with Will Evans, co-founder of FlowCandy, and Nikki Tooman, co-founder of Sticky Digital. Will is a former e-commerce store owner turned email marketing expert who spent years in the trenches building brands. Nikki leads a multi-million-dollar all-woman retention agency outside San Diego and turning one-time purchasers into loyal fans through email, SMS, and loyalty. So excited to hear from both of you, and I'll let you both do some introductions of your own. Will, why don't I start with you today?
Yeah, I mean, that was great. Co-founder FlowCandy. We're like a Klaviyo agency mostly. That's pretty much all we focus on. And yeah, I used to own a couple e-commerce stores. That's how I got my start. I used to own a couple Shopify stores and Amazon FBA business right out of college, like around 2012, 13, 14, 15.
Nice. Awesome.
Hi,
And
everybody.
Nikki?
Yeah, I'm Nikki Tooman. I am one of the co-founders, like Megan said, of Sticky Digital. Been around for almost 6 years. We're all women, about 25 women, based all over the US. Majority of us are West Coast based. My co-founder and I met at the largest Shopify agency almost 10 years ago. And we were employee 8 and 9 there and decided to leave that, go brand side, and then from brand side start Sticky Digital about 6 years ago.
Awesome. So let's just get right on into it. Will, so you were an e-commerce brand owner before founding FlowCandy. Nikki, you've been in the Shopify system for over a decade. What inspired you guys to start agencies, go to the thankless side of the business?
Will, did you want to go?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I guess what inspired me was partly like my own stores were not doing so well. And I kept like when I was running my own stores, I got really good at the email side of things. And so I got really good at that. It was obviously it's a lot cheaper, especially if you already have a list to convert and say like Facebook ads or something like that. And so friends started hiring me to do it. And eventually, I was just posted like small businesses, and then eventually I got like some really big businesses. Um, and this was right around when Facebook like acquired Instagram, and I saw like a shift in the market where like stores that were, back then you were like lucky if you were doing like over 100K a month, you were like kind of a big deal. Now it's like, there's tons of stores doing over like 100K a day. So I saw that shift kind of happen, and that's where I was like, oh wow, like this looks like these guys like need me almost full time because they're doing so much volume.
So you were just ready to jump in, help all your friends?
And not all my friends, but like there's a couple that needed help because they're just such low hanging fruit. They weren't even sending emails, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
So what
This
were
is like
they,
right when
how were they?
Klaviyo, it was like kind of right when Klaviyo just started. A lot of them were like kind of using MailChimp, and it wasn't the best setup. It was confusing, and Klaviyo just sort of come around. I had sort of first cut my teeth on that and seen, I mean, back then it was hard to just set up an abandoned checkout flow. You couldn't do like a lot of these things that we're doing today where we're like passing in dynamic events and you can see the cart in the email. That was hard like 10, 15 years ago.
I guess really that shift of email becoming a marketing channel, not just a transactional channel, was really where the
Yeah.
opportunities shifted. Was it like that for you, Nikki?
It was fairly similar when myself and my co-founder Mariel, when we were at that Shopify agency, we were working with the largest brands on Shopify. So we were working with like the Movement Watches and the Rebecca Minkoffs and like everything else. And I remember because I was on the tech side. And so I did all of our tech partnerships. And so every sort of like thing that went into a website or ask that a merchant had would typically like run through me, and the team would be like, hey, what's the best technology, X, Y, and Z? And I remember our largest merchant at the time was like, I need an email agency. And literally there was like 75 of us. Our entire agency was like, I don't think that exists. And so like we would build ad hoc emails for them because they weren't running it as a channel. Ad hoc emails for them based off of landing pages that we had designed for the website. So it was like sort of like very backwards.
Yep.
And that was the beginning when I started realizing that merchants were actually like considering this as a full-blown independent channel from just like building really beautiful websites, right? And like pumping all this money into like the website. And then myself and my co-founder, we went brand side. And this brand incubator where they were spinning up like 4 or 5 Shopify brands. They had recruited about 7 of us from that agency to go spin up these brands for them. And we were working brand side, and it was the same thing. Like it was the shift from being able to dump all of this money in Meta and like Facebook at the time, and being able to just sort of like not have to focus on bringing them back because people would just come back, right? Like it was just sort of how e-commerce worked back then. And my co-founder Mariel looked at our founder and was basically like, hey, like we need to start investing in email and SMS because like this isn't going to last for us. And we were teaching ourselves those channels. This was 7-8 years ago. We were teaching ourselves those channels after doing it and realizing, being brand side and like looking for help because we had 5 brands that we were doing it for, and realizing that like nobody was actually doing it. We were like, we should go do this because nobody is focusing on this. And like, this is where e-commerce is headed. You need to be in front of the customer at every time. So that's sort of like the long and short of how it happened. But same sort of scenario, like we saw the pivot and then just sort of like dove all in.
That's brilliant. I've known you for so long and I haven't known this like origin story. So I love to hear this. So there's no blueprint for just dumping money into Meta. I actually used to work at a marketing agency too. All we focused on was acquisition. And we would talk about LTV. We'd talk about CAC. We'd be like, oh yeah, they'll come back and buy again. But we never talked about how to do that. Where did you start? Like when there's no blueprint, when you're not getting emails from brands, like what did you start building? And like, I guess that can be like kind of a 2-pronged question of like, where did you start then? And what would you start with today if you were building out a new brand?
Me first?
Sure. Go for it.
You first, Will. You
Okay,
go
okay,
first.
me first. Okay, all right,
You
we'll
got
go first.
it.
Okay. All right. That's a great question. I don't even really know, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll be straight up, like I failed at the brands I launched. A lot of people, I mean, it's really hard. I can only speak from my own experience, through failing with brands and also working with, a lot now and getting exposed to some. So I was like, okay, that's actually a good business. And I'd be surprised. Like a lot of the clients we work with, it's kind of like 50-50, but occasionally you'll see some, wow, that's like really, 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 a dialed in business that I would recommend. And I think the one thing that I see, if I could do it all over again, would be to have like an unfair advantage. And so there could be all sorts of ways to find that. That's kind of I guess if you're a founder or visionary, that's kind of the secret sauce. But the one I've seen routinely is partnering with like celebrities or somebody. It doesn't even have to be a celebrity, but somebody who already has influence and already has traffic that you can like turn on day one instead of having to turn on the Facebook ads and spend all your money towards that. You can, the best one I've ever seen, they basically were able to scale to like 1 million, 5 million a year completely off this, influencers list before they were ever, and that was enough to like support the team, support product growth, even support like testing some stuff without having to go and raise money, go get debt. And so they could figure out the product line before they were able to like really scale up ads or scale into retail. I found that to be like really, really critical and something I remembered in my own journey is just like, wow, if you could have that unfair advantage, especially if that unfair advantage can bring traffic on day one, that's what I would do.
Okay. So more building up that influence in that space before you actually have a product and then using that built-in potential customer base to understand what products you should be offering.
Yeah. And also like another thing too, it's not only that, but the conversion rate is much higher on those stores. The LTV is much like the metrics are like off the charts sometimes with some of those brands.
Nikki, if you've worked with some celebrity brands, some influencer, I feel like I've seen a couple
Yeah.
come across your portfolio. What is that like compared to, I mean, like it sounds like Will says, but like if you're in like one of those brand positions where you have that baked in audience, how do you build up the right trust with them, right? Like I feel like even if you have that audience, you only have one shot, maybe two, to like get the right thing out there because all eyes are on you. So if that product is bad or the customer experience is poor, you don't have that chance when you have a really tiny customer base to hide those mistakes. So how do you ensure that when you do have all eyes on you, that you maximize the value from that?
Yeah, I think it really is dependent on like who that influencer is and like what that like celebrity status is because it's very dependent. Like the brands that are more like influencer backed, not necessarily like I wouldn't say they're celebrity, but they're influencer backed brands and like they can just really drive a ton of traffic from like Instagram purely based off of their customer base because their customer base likes the products that they usually like sling, right? So that's typically how it starts. Like they're that person that has like the LTK that's like shop this, shop that. You're buying their like Abercrombie, you're buying whatever they're wearing and it's always good quality. And so when they spin up their own brands, you already as like the consumer trust them. It's a very different game when you are backed by like when the brand is backed by a celebrity and the celebrity just has these people that what I consider like the window shoppers or the creeps, right? Like they're going to sign up for the list and they're not really ever going to do anything because they just love the celebrity. So it's almost like twofold, a very different experience in our experience that we've worked with from an influencer brand versus a celebrity backed brand. And I will say, I think like the influencer backed brands are a lot easier to sort of like generate retention off of because they've already sort of like have that trust with their group of individuals that are shopping versus a celebrity who it's just like, idolized person. I'm going to try their thing because like I just love them as a person and I don't necessarily like have any experience into trusting what they're slinging.
Yeah.
So it's a very like different approach for both of them. I will say a lot of the brands that we've worked with that have celebrity behind them, they are trying to sort of like pivot away from the celebrity being the face. So like they want the celebrity to like be behind the brand, but they've also realized that like the celebrity being the face is driving a lot of just those like window shoppers and not necessarily purchasers.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
now we're starting to separate that engagement versus that actual purchasing behavior. But email is one of those places where we do really want engagement, right? Like that actually gets us that opportunity. So how do you really get this across to those brand owners of like, where's the like, how do we balance having both engagement with our brand, which keeps things top of mind, which keeps it ahead of competitors versus finding those actual opportunities to drive revenue and actually drive those sales?
I
It's
think that's
tricky.
like a really like interesting one and like very dependent on the brand. I mean, Will, you probably have this experience too. Like you have some brands that are really like, I don't care, message everybody and I don't care what they're doing. Like just send all of the emails and like do the things, right? Which is completely like not the right approach. I think we can all agree on that. But as a brand owner, they're literally just like, I don't care, send the email.
Mhm.
So it is very like a brand dependent approach. And I think, for us being the experts, we can sit there and have an opinion on what we actually think is best practice. But ultimately, it's your brand. And if you want us to spam everybody and like continue to send emails to everybody, even after we've told you not to do that, we will continue to do it. And I think with deliverability, like you can't just look at like those inflated open metrics for like engagement. You also need to see the click throughs. Like you also need to see the purchases. Like all of these things deem whether or not like you are a validated sender. And so it is sort of like that fine line. Like you can't really send to everybody, but sometimes like there's literally nothing we can do on the agency side. They will be like, I don't care, send to everybody. And you just kind of have to go like, okay, we don't agree, but sure, that's what we're going to do. So it really does depend on the brand and it depends on actually like their understanding of the end game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Will, engagement, I think we're now wandering into the email performance side of things. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on, that
I mean,
engagement
that's really
front?
well said. All I could say, I mean, I agree with all that. All I could say is my own experience is that a lot of this comes down, it just comes down to like behind these brands are people, and it just comes down to the people that are inside these companies, inside these brands. Some of them are really organized, dialed in. Some of them not so much. They're spread very thin. They have, email or CRM, whatever you want to call it these days, retention marketing. So, if you're like a big mid-market celebrity backed brand or you're doing over 10, 20, $100 million a year, like it's like a full department. It takes a lot of people to manage. You can even have an agency doing it and you still need somebody else to manage it all. And it just depends on not only their mental health and like how organized they are, but also their boss and the team around them. We've had some companies come in, get acquired by private equity, and they're like go, 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 go.
Yeah.
To Nikki's point, like just spam
Yep.
everybody. Then we've had
Just email the
some that
whole
are acquired
list.
by private equity, like, no, we want to like focus on profitability. We've had some chasing an acquisition who are more about running up the revenue. I mean, it just really comes down to like sitting down with those people, understanding their goals and creating plans and strategy for them. Because I think at a certain point, the cookie cutter stuff doesn't really work anymore. Like once you get to a certain size.
Yep. Okay. So, Will, carrying on in that one,
Yeah.
I think anyone listening to this that runs a brand and is emailing their entire list knows now not to do it. But why don't
Yeah.
we just zoom out on the why behind that? Like, because I think all three of us could talk about deliverability in our sleep. But if you are a brand
Yeah.
owner, you're focusing on email and SMS and direct mail and acquisition and all of these other channels, platforms, and you have the product and actually like shipping tariffs. Like, there's so many things going on for a brand owner that I don't think even the most sophisticated one would know the nuances of deliverability or like have a need to. So let's talk about like a bit more what happens when you do send an email, why you actually can't, other than just for courtesy's sake, like why you actually cannot just blast your entire list all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird, we tell some people like it's not really a big deal. And then once you reach a certain size, it becomes a really big deal. And then the bigger you get, the more of a problem it becomes. And, basically, like, especially if you're like doing a lot of traffic, and I'm talking like you're doing hundreds of thousands of views a month to your site, you're probably collecting tens of thousands of email addresses. And those people eventually, I mean, not every one of them, most of them will probably never buy from you. I mean, in theory, you want them all to be customers, but most of them won't. And eventually they'll become like not really engaged with your brand anymore. So they're not opening emails, they're not clicking emails. They could also be putting in fake email addresses. There's all sorts of problems with it. And you really want to, like, at a certain size, really be sending to a clean list. Or when you do want to send out, there's times when you can send to everybody. We've worked with massive companies that send to everybody, but they do it very, very rarely, like when they launch a new product or like around a big promotional period. So that's my 2 cents. It's just like once you reach at a certain size, and to give people like a heart, like ballpark numbers here, maybe like your list gets 20,000, 50,000 people, you really need to start thinking about segmenting and sending to certain segments and not just blasting to everybody. And then when you do send to everybody, just be very strategic about it.
Yeah. Nikki, anything to add?
No, I think like Will said it nicely. Like there's a time and a place, right? Like you can still email everybody, but there's a time and a place, and that time and that place is not every day or 6 times a week. The other thing that I will say is like definitely encourage brands to test sort of if you're sending 5 emails, say 5 emails a week, which is still kind of insane in my opinion, 5 emails a week. I challenge them to test scaling back to 4 and actually seeing if it like moves the needle with revenue. We've actually done this a lot. I'm sure Will has experience doing this too. Like even decreasing the number of emails you do actually positively increases your revenue. So test it, because I know it sounds scary because you're like, oh, how is that even possible? Because I'm reaching their inboxes like less frequently. But because you are reaching their inboxes less frequently, you have something more important to say, or it's sort of like this cadenced approach that people are expecting emails in the inbox. And it's becoming less of just an annoyance factor. So test it, because guaranteed by decreasing the number of emails you do from an ungodly amount to even scale back like 25%, will help increase your revenue and your deliverability metrics.
Yeah. And I think that that deliverability part is the part that a lot of people aren't aware of, because if you advertise on Meta and you put another $100,000 into your account, it will hit more eyes. But if you are sending 5 emails a week and Will's not opening any of those emails, Gmail, Yahoo, these email providers will stop putting them in the inbox. They will start putting that in spam, because so many emails are coming into our inboxes every day. Gmail, Yahoo, all these email providers want their customers to have a good experience. They don't care if that brand email doesn't get delivered. I think getting that across to folks that, like, if you are sending less emails, more of them might actually be showing up in front of your customers because they are engaging, because across the board people are more engaged, that sending out that 6th email, it just might show up in spam. And if
Yep.
you're not sending strong and strategically, it probably will. So that's
Yeah.
always my caveat on deliverability. Go check your spam folder on your personal inbox, and you will see the truth, and send all those to me so I can go prospect them as customers.
Yeah.
It's always my strategy. But speaking of, so what are some of the strategies that brands really should have? So we're saying email the right people, set up flows. Like, what are some of the retention strategies that really help move that needle a bit more? Like, we can't just all do the same playbook. We have to have those little strategic differentiators. Will, what are some of the strategies that you really put in place to gain more brand loyalty across your customer bases?
Yeah, so we like to keep it simple, or I try to keep it as simple as possible because this can get like really complex. So once you already have like, foundational flows set up, you're sending campaigns a couple times a week or whatever. You have a campaign calendar that you're on a regular basis, and the metrics look pretty good. I like to, we're known for trying to go deeper into second layer metrics, because what I've seen happen is sometimes brands, like, they get it really optimized, and then they just start obsessing over like my click-through rate, my open rate,
Mhm.
my placed order rate. And like, I'm not saying those metrics aren't important, but I think eventually you reach a certain stage where there's other, what we call second layer retention metrics that matter. So stuff like that, some of the KPIs that we like to see, because we think that the ultimate metric in retention is lifetime value. The problem with that is it's a lagging metric, okay? And so there's other leading metrics. It's hard to just like optimize that. Just be like, let's optimize our LTV. It's not like you can go run like 10 different split tests on your, like, a subject line or something. Okay. There's all these other KPIs that stack to it. So we like to, talk with brands. Okay. Like, what's your NPS scores? What is your ticket response time? What is your chat response time? What is your, how many people, like, what are the percentage of customers you're getting, or prospects you're getting to become first time customers? What is the percentage of first time customers that you're getting to become repeat customers? How much UGC are you collecting? And again, this gets kind of advanced. We can't do this a lot of times with the entry level clients, but the more later stage ones, we'll start having those. Because what I've noticed in my experience is if you can like take care of those metrics that are a little bit easier to understand and a little bit easier to impact, a lot of times the LTV can kind of take care of itself.
Nikki, is LTV the right metric, the North Star we shall be aiming for?
Yes, absolutely. I will say, to Will's point, a lot of times when we do audits for brands, like, that's exactly what we look at. And we look at like, how good of a job are you doing at acquiring that first customer, and how good of a job are you at like getting those customers to come back and make like returning purchases. And it's really interesting because a lot of the times when we do the audits, regardless of brand size, is brands actually don't know where the split of their customer is. They actually, a lot of them don't know. They see money being generated through their Klaviyo, right? But like, they don't know, is this from a first time customer? Is this from a returning customer? And they don't know what to do with that information. So I think a lot of it is like really determining your buckets of customers and then how you're speaking to them. Because what we find in like the audit phase is a lot of times, like, if you're doing a really good job at acquiring them the first time and then you're not doing a great job at like keeping them and having them come back, if you literally do like a layout of your flows and your journeys and like what that looks like, guaranteed they're not getting messaging from you like when they should be getting messaging from you. And like that's the piece of your business that you need to work on. But it really does take some, like, you have to do the digging. And to Will's point, like, don't just look at like your Klaviyo dashboard and be like, oh, my open rates are great and like I should increase my click rates, because it's like that doesn't really tell you who the customer is and how you're marketing to them. So
you have to talk to those different customers very differently, right? That person that's signed up for your mailing list, maybe get that first order discount and still hasn't pulled the trigger. Like, what is the message they need versus that post-purchase email? Like, how do you maximize the value of your product? How do you find that right replenishment pattern, if there is one, or that upsell or cross-sell pattern? So there's so much opportunity in email, and in SMS, I think is so valuable. And Nikki, you've said that email and SMS should be driving like 30% of a brand's revenue. What are brands missing when they're falling short of that benchmark? Like, what else do they need to be doing to really get to that level, or like what's missing from their strategy?
typically what we see, if a brand's not generating at least 30% I think is like conservatively on like the low end, because email is such a great channel now. But what we see is that a lot of times brands just don't have all of their systems tied together. And so they're not creating this like retention flywheel with their customers. And they're looking at their channels like very independently, and like they're not thinking of it as like a whole or like a sub. So like you'll see brands that have sort of like subscription, and they're running sort of like their subscription retention in a completely different way than they're running just like their emails out of Klaviyo. They don't tie those together. And then you have like your transactional emails. That's like some of the brands are still using Shopify to sort of like run those transactional emails, and they're not looking at sort of like the impact of what those transactional emails are doing to their customer base and their recurring customer base. And so it's like really tying all of your whether that's like email, SMS, loyalty, subscription, even like your post-purchase, like what does that look like? Where are those transactional emails coming from? And tying them all together. Because once you start tying things together and talking to your customer in a more like refined and educated way, you'll find that you are increasing the LTV. You're going to decrease like the churn of your customer, because you're actually looking at the way that you're talking to your customer in a cycle.
Nikki's frozen for a second.
We lost Nikki right when she said churn.
Right, just churned her. Oh, you're back.
Amazing. Yeah. We're back. Okay.
Yeah.
We were so engaged, and then you froze. I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's
Sorry.
so good.
Long story short, tie everything together and don't run them as independent channels.
I think that's very solid advice. And I think it's hard. There's so much tech out there. I mean, is it something that like when you're working with brands, like, are you just focused on email, or are you focused on how they're really, using email as a conduit for all of those different channels, that loyalty, SMS, like all of the different ways like we're interacting with the customer?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been sort of, I would say in the past 2 to 3 years have been really beating the drum on like consolidation of tech stacks, just because it gets, to your point, it just gets such like a hard to manage at some point. And yeah, I mean, I believe, with Klaviyo now like repositioning itself as a CRM, which I loved. I got it right away. A lot of people didn't understand it. Some people that might be listening to this might not still understand it. But the reality is, when you work with these bigger companies that are in the mid-market and the enterprise, a lot of them have like, it's not called like on their org chart, it's not like the email marketing specialist, or I'm an email marketing project manager. It's CRM director, director of CRM, director of retention. And then when you look at those job descriptions, to like Nikki's point and your point, like it's not just email. It's loyalty, it's SMS. A lot of times, like these people, like we've worked with clients where it's like, I'm in charge of email, I'm in charge of Amazon, I'm in charge of SEO. And I'm like, how do you even wake up in the morning and do that? That sounds like craziness, being able to manage every single one of those channels. So I do see it moving much more, especially with Klaviyo being kind of like the brain, and it's the CRM. And then you have all these other channels coming in. I mean, obviously email and SMS do drive probably the most of the revenue, but there's other channels coming too, and now we're bringing chat in more. You're bringing loyalty, gift cards, direct mail. Who knows what there'll be now in 5-10 years now with where we're heading with segmentation and AI. I don't even know. But yeah, I mean, I do see it kind of all merging into one sort of brain or one sort of platform.
Yeah. I think that really taking that like zoomed out perspective makes a lot of sense because all of these are tools that we use to retain customers. And, I know we covered this in the beginning. You can't just go out and buy anymore. It's a little too expensive to do that. Also, that VC money is not flowing the way it used to. So no more $200 million valuations of like a Series A. So people really have to work not only to get that lifetime value, but that LTV to CAC ratio like really matters a lot more for brands. So keeping in that tech stack consolidation and always plug Klaviyo's B2B CRM, Will, you guys have been building FlowCandy's reputation is known for building really strong Klaviyo strategies, and that's amazing. So, what are some of the features that you think are underutilized within Klaviyo? You can go more into the CRM. We'd love to probably hear a bit more about that. But, like, where are brands leaving money on the table and not getting that full use out of the tools they already have?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like so much always money on the table. Sometimes it could be for sure. But I do think that Klaviyo has the best integrations and segmentation capabilities that I've seen. And it is like sort of built as like a database, as a data layer first, so that you can bring in all this data. And you're seeing that now with all their integrations, like you can integrate with like data warehouses, data lakes, and stuff like that. And that's where I see like the real functionality is that you can scale with that. And we've worked with brands before where it's like they're trying to save some money. They're like, oh, I'm going to migrate over to insert whoever to save some money a little bit. You certainly can, but I found that like if you're really like I want to scale this business, okay? I want to get to like 10 million, 50 million, $100 million. Eventually some of these tools you just get blocked. They just don't have as deep of integrations. They just don't have the segmentation capabilities. And then now yeah, you might be saving money, but you're also paying an opportunity cost because you're not able to do this stuff. Or your team is having to spend all this time trying to find workarounds to do certain little things. Like something as simple as like, hey, I want to send an email to people that clicked on this SMS message. I want to send an email to them. Like sometimes if you have that sounds like a very simple segment to build, but if you have all these different platforms over here and there, it can be complicated, especially as these platforms get more competitive with each other. So that's sort of like where we come at it, and where I think some brands leave money on the table. To come back to that, is just by not having it on one platform, or just by like trying to cut corners to save some money.
Nikki, any thoughts there?
I was gonna piggyback off of Will's thought for like using Klaviyo or any ESP or whatever tool you have as like that data layer. I'm honestly shocked at how much information these ESPs carry and how little brands are using the information like to their benefit. And just trying to sort of like do a like rinse repeat type of model and not trying to do anything like more sophisticated. You have so much information within your ESP, and being able to like try doing, I don't want to say something cool with it, but like do something cool with it and personalize the experience and like build out some of these flows based on that like data layer and all of the information that you're getting. I think like that is a huge missed opportunity that a lot of times when brands come to us, they're not currently doing. And I don't necessarily know if brands even know really where to start with that, or if they even realize how much information is on like a Klaviyo profile, for instance, that you can use. So I think like really trying to just become more personalized and like dig a little bit deeper with the personalization and that data that you have within your ESP.
Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense to really like when we look at these ESPs and that all of this information flows through them. Like I think I say quite often, like your website is your product hub, email is your customer hub, right? Like that's where everything that interacts with that customer comes back around to. That's how they re-engage with their loyalty program, with ratings, with reviews, with shipping, returns, logistics. All of that goes through email. So really thinking about that more as that place that has all of that customer data, I think it really changes the game. But we've talked a lot about consolidation. I want to kind of bring up the other part, which is, sometimes there is a good reason to have these tools in different places when it really comes to best in class product lines. So I'd love to hear from both of you when you think brands should consolidate, have everything in one place versus when they should actually consider having specialized tools to achieve a certain outcome. So, Will, I can start with you for that one.
I think it just depends on the goals, you know? It depends on I would say like a lot of times when people are like, "Hey, I want to consolidate," it's because I want to save money or I met this cool guy at a conference or something and I just want to follow his like I like him. You know, this is I've had this multiple happen to me multiple times. So, I would say like to if you want to use another tool, like there should be like a clear business case use study for it. Like this is going to help us make more money, capture more subscribers. It's going to help us segment further, learn more about our audience. So that would be like my short answer. It's like you have to be able to like show like that this is going to improve KPI, or it doesn't even have to be KPI. It could just be like it's easier to use. It's easy for our team to use, and we still get the same results. That would be my recommendation.
I'm probably going to
Especially-
give like a really unpopular opinion here from the tech side of things. I and we at Sticky Digital do not believe in ripping and replacing technology when we start with brands. Like, we do not believe in that. I know that that's probably like technologies are like, oh, great, like you're starting to work with a new brand. Like, how do we get them over here? And I think for us, like, let us sort of like dig in and really analyze what's going on, because like just because your SMS tool is not performing for you, is it really not performing for you, or are you just underutilizing it, or maybe you're not focused on that channel specifically? And I think like there's an opportunity there when you rip and replace and like move technologies, even if it's to tech stack consolidation or separating or whatever you're trying to do because something's quote typically not performing, like take a step back, because I don't necessarily think a lot of times that's what it is. It's a lot of it has to do with the strategy that's going into it, or like the time and the care and the energy, because you probably don't have that. And so I think too, like a big thing is, to Will's point, like there needs to be a reason, and like it underperforming should not be the reason for you. I think like, a lot of these tools are built comparably to some degree, I think, based on what the brands are trying to do. And so I really think like you should take a pause, because when you do rip and replace, there is a whole lot that has to go into it. And I think a lot of things that you as a brand really don't take into consideration when that happens. And then it's us on the agency side that then has to take the wrath of like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Like X, Y, and Z. So I think like just take a pause, let your new agency or your current agency like really dig in and see if there's an opportunity to like stay where you are before even contemplating like the rip and replace.
So we're cleaning our house before we're just abandoning it and moving into a new apartment.
Setting fire to it, yes.
Or literally
Clean it before you set fire to it.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, make sure like
Yeah,
see if it's
I
actually
love that
livable.
too. Yeah, just I would say is to her point, I think a lot of people think a migration can just fix everything, and
Yeah.
no.
No,
Like sometimes, yeah,
it doesn't. I promise it doesn't.
no, yeah,
If you're messy, the new place will get dirty too.
yeah,
No, and I think it's hard. It is hard. There is so much data. There's so much that we can work with, right? And there are just treasure troves of data that, like you said, Nikki, a lot of brands come to you and they don't even realize they have access to this. And then that's one part. And then it's okay, now I have access to this. What do I do with it? So email, SMS, I think we're all bought in. We need to be able to talk to our customers. What are some other channels in the retention space that you're really bullish on, of like how we can really maximize those relationships with our existing customers? Nikki, I'll start with you this time.
We love a good post-purchase tool. I think like post-purchase tools are wonderful because, check your shipping emails so many times. So like use that to your benefit. Sign on to like a post-purchase tool. Like there's Malomos out there. There's an Aftership, there's so many options, but like use that to your advantage. We also love a good like subscription program. If your brand should be on subscription, is on subscription. I think a lot of times that's also underutilized. And again, a lot of brands run them sort of like separate from each other. Like these people are on subscription, these people are one-time purchasers, but you need to like look at it in a little bit of a different lens to see that. Because one thing that we are seeing with a lot of our subscription brands is some of these post-purchase tools, a lot of them do have both of them. And you don't realize how many subscribers are churning from those transactional emails that you're sending them. And so I think like really trying to look at both of those things together and really like understand heads or tails of like what's happening. Yeah, we love like the ID graphing. We love like the better pop-up experiences that you can do really cool things with, and like, you know, building a very specific segment to like trigger a pop-up rather than it just to be like all or nothing. And there's a lot of really cool tools out there that you can do a lot of really great things with. Orita, we love Orita. We use Orita with basically like all of our brands. We love Orita. Bots are huge right now, and you guys make our job so much easier because like you are able to sort of like stop them before they even become a thing. And so I think like Orita is also huge. Yeah, those are my sort of like non-negotiables, I think.
I'll send your payment after this recording.
Thank you.
Amazing. Anyone else that wants to pay Nikki for a plug, you can also email her. But Will, any apps that like really get you guys excited, like any strategies that like in that post-purchase space that like you like anytime you bring on a customer, you're like, we should really be doing this. And then I'm gonna dig in on subscription after this. I'm teasing that one up.
Yeah. I don't know if it's apps. I mean, like, I feel like Nikki touched on a lot there. I know one thing that me particularly, I like to recommend, because I have, different people on my team that recommend different things, and just based off like what clients want or what they have experience with. And I know like sometimes when I work with the clients, I really like to do like third party survey, some type of surveying tool, whether it's like, I don't know what app, there's so many of them, I can't even name them. These like the thank you page surveys where you can, especially because a lot of the brands we're working with are like more blended now. They have, oh, we're in Whole Foods or Sprouts, and we also have an Amazon business, and oh, we're on like this podcast, and we have our Facebook ads. So it's hard to like track attribution. So I really like that, to just be able to look at the data. I also like these survey tools, and I think Kendo can do some of this too. Maybe that's one I could drop. They can do like surveying and UGC collection, but really like surveying the customers. I mean, it could literally be Google Forms, like just if you can send out a survey to figure out why people bought or why people churned or why they didn't sign up for this subscription, or getting feedback on a certain product, and you can bring that like into your flywheel, back to your product dev team and fulfillment and all that sort of stuff. I really like that. I think that's sort of, as a business owner, that it makes sense to me. So that's like the one thing that I'm sort of recommending the clients to use. But I know there's, I mean, we could talk about subscription. Those probably obviously add more value on the front end.
Well, hot seat question first. Do you answer those post-purchase surveys?
Me personally?
Yes.
When I check, yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
If you go and you look at like I'll do, because sometimes I'll do these like videos of me buying the things online and showing people. I'll literally fill out the surveys on those videos. So
Okay.
yeah, I do it.
Okay. The receipts are there, folks. You can go on Will's
The receipts are
YouTube
there,
video
yeah.
He's a
and
man of
watch
his
it.
word.
Yeah. I went through the best one I've ever seen is Liquid Death. I went through Liquid Death's, whatever you want to call it, zero party data post-purchase survey. But it was like a type form. So again, it doesn't
Okay.
have to be any like e-commerce related tool. And it
Right.
was like 20 pages, and I went through all of them and took a screenshot. I'm
Great.
a big fan of them.
Okay. This podcast is now sponsored by Liquid Death. If you're listening, please send us water or something. Am I allowed to say that? Probably not. Business. Awesome. The reason I bring up subscription is the first thing I hear all the time is, well, I don't have a subscription product. I think we've found a lot of ways to get subscriptions, memberships, things like that into the loyalty space. So, Nikki, I'm gonna toss this one at you. How can brands that don't have a typical subscription type product integrate some type of recurring business into their business model?
I would argue that almost every single brand out there has some sort of like replenishable. Because even if you're looking at like these large, like say mattress company, right? Somebody's not buying a mattress every couple of months, but maybe you are. If you're like, if you're buying a mattress, like guaranteed you probably have different things that go with them. You have pillows, you have like, there are other pieces. And so it's almost like an upsell to it. So although you may not be running a traditional subscription where every 30 days you're trying to get somebody to come back to like repeat purchase that like product, you probably have another SKU that you can like cross sell into it. So I think it's like not necessarily thinking of subscription as like singular products, but almost looking at it as like repeat purchase, cross sell, upsell type of scenario. Because I think the other really interesting thing to look at is like when you look at what your customers are buying for the very first time, are they coming back and repeat purchasing that same product? Or are they coming back and trying something different because they liked the product and so now they want to like see what else you have? And so I think even like digging into that from a brand perspective, subscription or not, and just figuring out like what is the natural next step or like what would be the next version for somebody that's bought this product. And just trying to like cross sell or upsell it because there's always an opportunity to like bring them back.
Well, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you are, I guess if you're watching, the question is if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know if I have a subscription offer, right? Or I don't think I have a subscription business. I would go challenge that assumption. You could be right, but you could also be wrong. So we always tell people to go look at their numbers and go like, let's go pull the whole customer list. Let's go pull the whole order list and let's go find some data that confirms that assumption. And I think to Nikki's point, you might find that, okay, like I sell bedding and you know what? Like these people that bought this mattress every 3 months, they're coming back and buying these pillow sheets. There's your subscription offer, you
Yep.
know, and then you can test it. So, I mean, that's kind of like how we approach it. One of our values is let the numbers be the guides. Let's go look at the data and see if we can find some ideas off of that.
The truth is in the data.
Mhm.
So I think we've said this a few times. There's a lot of data. There's almost too much data. There's data coming
Too
from
much,
everywhere.
yeah.
So our friend AI has started coming into the mix to analyze that data and make changes, things like that. How are you to integrating AI tooling into your marketing strategies? And it can be all the way from copywriting to tools, but where is AI showing up and where do you think it's going to stay?
Yeah.
Anyone
I
that's
use
excited
AI all
at
the time.
Okay.
I use it all the time. I'm like not one of these doomers about it. I love it. I think it's amazing. I don't think I think a lot of people think it can replace the workflow. This is what we talk a lot about. Oh, it's going to take all of your jobs and replace the workflow. And as we move into like an agentic world or whatever these terms people throw around, maybe that happens. But from my experience, all it's done right now is just amplify the workflow. Like it's not taking over. Like we still need our copywriters, we still need our designers. If anything, it's making them, improving their ability to deploy whatever designs, copy for clients. So that's where I'm seeing it. And I use it every day. I use all these tools, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, Google, I think we have an instance in it. We're testing Replit, some of these like more developer stuff. So we're using it all over the place and I'm pretty bullish on it and it's changing really fast and I'm really excited about it.
Love it.
Yeah.
All in on AI. It's actually just an
I would say
AI
I'm like
rendering
all
of
in.
you.
Yeah, I would say I'm all in, but I am very like, I don't share the doomer.
I was
The
like, you're
doom and
not
gloom.
fighting it.
Yeah.
What about you, Nikki? Where are you using AI in the workplace?
I mean, honestly, like every retention tool now has a form of AI. Like it does, but to Will's point, it's not replacing our jobs, but I think it is helping us move a lot quicker along things. So that's obviously very helpful. I use ChatGPT literally every single day. I know like our team uses ChatGPT every single day. Like instead of like searching Google for it, you type a question to ChatGPT and it comes up with like all of this information for you. So it's like it's an easier way to sort of like get to where you're trying to go. We're trying to like automate systems internally too, just from like the back end of the business, just looking at like, we do email briefs and we write copy and we do all these things. So how can we do it a lot quicker? Not necessarily the writing, but the creating of the briefs and filling in some of like the information from a content calendar instead of having to like copy and paste and do that. So we're building those systems in so that we are able to just move faster and like service our clients, I think, a lot better than a lot of what the admin work takes. And there's an opportunity to be able to do that with all of these tools, is creating a back end process for your business.
I also have a great search AI recommendation for you. It's called Arc Search. So it actually queries things and shows you where the queries are coming from because I know ChatGPT does hallucinate quite a bit.
It does.
Yeah. So I use that one because it'll summarize the articles and show you where it's pulling it from. So I do like the showing its work
Arc
part.
search.
Yeah.
I'm making
Yeah,
it
it's a
my
good one.
my go-to now.
All right. There you go. My plug is for Arc Search.
Plug.
My plug is for Arc Search, also Orita's an AI company, if you guys didn't know. So if you want machine learning insights into your entire email list, come hit us up. But we only have a couple minutes left. So Will, Nikki, I want to both give you an opportunity to plug something you're excited about. And because it is July 1st, it's officially Christmas today. So Merry Christmas to everyone. But we are all now planning for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We've entered Q3. The panic has begun. Playbook. So I'd love to hear your first piece of advice in the Q3 season as brands prepare for a very tumultuous holiday, as well as anything you'd like to plug or share with us. So Will, I'll start with you.
My advice is pick up meditation. It's changed my life. Highly recommend it. I don't have any like tactical stuff for you. I do think a lot of it's in between the head, and I've literally had clients have meltdowns, seen them have meltdowns during Black Friday, and during that whole Cyber Week, Cyber Month, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I mean, I would just tell people like, hey, like we live in an incredible time. Okay, we're able to like build these businesses anywhere in the world. You can have a store, set up a store, you can scale it to millions, and you can work in your apartment or your house or wherever. Like in the big picture, everything is great. All right. And you can also just send out an email, and I've seen it happen literally on like Cyber Monday or Black Friday and make millions of dollars. Okay. So it's never been a better time to be alive. So just take a chill pill, just get through it, and just be grateful. That would be my advice for Black Friday.
It's so wholesome. I'm like, my heart
I know.
hurts.
Yeah.
And anything you want to plug or share from FlowCandy? Anything cool you guys are working on?
Yeah. There's a ton of stuff. I don't even know where to begin. I know we're coming out with a book soon. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. Stay tuned for the
Yeah.
book launch. All right,
Yeah.
Nikki, I'll wrap it up with you.
One thing I want to plug is start rewarming your list like tomorrow for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like you literally like have to
Yeah.
start in
That's huge.
August to be able to like hit your largest list for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So like it literally needs to start now, which is crazy to think about. So if you haven't started thinking about what that looks like, you're already behind. So do that. And the other thing that I want to say is just like if you're working with an agency for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, just be kind. Just remember, we're all people at the end of the day. The sooner you get your marketing calendar into your agency, I promise you, regardless of what agency you're working with, the happier everybody will be. Everybody will
Yes.
be. So like, just like, it's never too early to start sort of like doing that and like planning with your agency and start having the conversations. Like nobody's going to think you're crazy. Like get on the call this week and start talking about it. And then just like cool things that Sticky Digital's doing. We're just, trying to be the best in the world. So just out there trying to be the best retention marketers. And like I said, if you're good to us, we're good back to you.
But ending on such like a wholesome note. Also, yes, be kind to everybody, regardless of time of the year. It is a very nice business trait, and everyone will like working with you.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing. Will, Nikki, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to chat with me. Really excited to hear from both of you. This is really awesome. I hope everyone that's listening learned a bit more about retention marketing. But yeah, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you soon.
Thank you.
Later, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you wish your D2C brand had the marketing superpowers of big tech? At Orita.ai, we've done the hard, mathy machine learning work to make that happen. Our advanced AI, once reserved for Silicon Valley giants, finds high-intent customers, pauses those who aren't ready to buy, and even zaps the bots. Over 150 plus e-commerce brands trust Orita to add hundreds of thousands of dollars in incremental revenue with our AI. If you're a marketer at a D2C brand, it's time to level up. Visit Orita.ai for a free email engagement audit and turn your customer list into a revenue engine.